episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Andrew.
Kaila.
Charlie.
And Josh. Alrighty then. What are we going over today, Dan?
The Curious Case of Benjamin Button by F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Okay. Most people know him for The Great Gatsby, but most people, when they think of The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, the first thing they'll think of is the 2008 film. And they would probably not connect it to an author, let alone F. Scott Fitzgerald. And so it's going to be really interesting to delve into the breaking down of this particular work. What are we talking about today?
How effective do you feel Fitzgerald is in designing a character that ages backwards?
If I may, I think he did a pretty good job, and it also shows on the father's part of acceptance. You know, this is, even though this is your son and he's 50, 60 years older than you, accept your son or daughter, and just be accepting in general. But I think the father, obviously, he has a really, really hard time trying to swallow that. He's like, he even says in the nursery, is this some kind of dark hospital joke, or is this some kind of ghastly hospital joke? And you know,
that was definitely something, because in the movie,
I accept you, Josh.
In the 2008
I accept you.
film, Benjamin
you.
Button is a wrinkly-looking baby when he's born. In the story, which is surprisingly much more reasonable, because usually it's more specific in the shorter works. The film does things for effect, but the fact that he comes out as an older man is quite effective.
Yeah, and he was born into high society too,
Mm-hmm.
and
in class
wasn't looked on all that well. And early on, they were kind of thankful that the Civil War was starting, and that kind of deflected from any attention.
Mm-hmm. He got attention, but not to the point that it was.
Yeah, well, yeah,
and I don't think there was some attention that he got that he really liked per se. Going further in, you know, when he goes, of course, we're aging backwards now. Imagine, if you will. If I say that again, just smack me. But when he goes off to Harvard, he wants, you know, of course, Mr. Button, his father, I think his name is Roger. He wants a boy. He really wants a boy. It's kind of like the royal family. They always want a boy so they can have you know. I have plenty of that, but I got my ears lowered. Thank you. Sorry. No, I'm about to get my head lowered off camera if I keep making these jokes. But he wanted a boy real badly, and then he's like, "Wait a minute, wait, what?" So
the funny thing is, in the intro to this book and to this, or in the intro to this story, there was mention to the fact that where Fitzgerald was getting his work published, they were expecting that he write all flapper stories, because he wrote in the 20s. And the fact that he approached them with magical realism was something that was completely different out of the ordinary. And in this case, it worked, I would say. Yeah. It was by no means at all a flapper story, because by the time Benjamin Button was in the 1920s, he was already he was a kid again in the physical appearance.
You could also probably say with the mindset too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that he definitely mentally.
That was one thing that the movie definitely didn't touch on, but how the intelligence kind of kept with the age regression, or the progression rather, set it backwards. But there was, when he was trying to apply at school after Yale, he was remarking that the other students seemed a lot more worldly. They were a little bit more intelligent. So there was definite indicators that his intelligence was keeping with his age digression. So that was something
that
they treated with like senility or something in the film. Like when he got younger, he was like a senile young kid.
Because he broke out as a football at the college. He broke out as a football star and doing amazingly well in his classes, but he was becoming weaker and also regressing mentally in college as he was becoming a senior.
Yeah. There was also 2 instances that I found really interesting with like his son Roscoe and his wife Hildegard, where it seemed like that they blamed him for the age, and it's like, you know, it was basically knock off your behavior. They weren't addressing anything he could control. So
in a way, it pretty much in a different kind of way, it's accurate to our lives, because it is that hill, only he's taking it backwards. We need personal care when we're younger, but we also need it when we're older. And we begin to...
I know I will.
In some ways...
It syncs up uncannily.
Yeah. We tend to lose attraction. Unfortunately, Benjamin Button was a bit more attracted to a physical appearance as opposed to...
What's on the inside?
What's on the... Yeah, that's correct. But the whole... when older people are often scolded, or they're often... The younger generation will tell them, no, that's a little bit beyond your means. You shouldn't do this.
In a way, it's kind of like, you know, just I'll picture myself in 25 or 30 years, what now? And then it's like, Dad, let me drive, you know. And it, you know, it's, you know, even though when I got the keys, we waited an extra year, so when I got my license, I had an extra year of experience on the road. And the reason I say that is because everyone was nervous, including myself, so but still, got aside. You know, he was doing a lot, had a lot on his plate at the time. And I'm like, Dad, maybe I'll drive. It was kind of like passing the torch, you know.
I would even say when he was fighting in the Spanish-American War, you have that... When he was making his way up, he was pretty well respected, and he came back into the war when he was older, and
much younger.
He was much younger. But they were the way. Sometimes, if you see an older man acting up, it's in a way similar to a young kid acting up.
It's like the same. It's like the same reaction. It's more like, you know, like, come on, get it together. You should know better. Where before it was like, you know,
you can't do this. I think it's funny the way like life is kind of like a hill like that. Like you come into the world needing assistance, and then you're gonna leave the world the same way, still needing assistance. And it almost doesn't matter which way you take that curve, because in the middle, you're going to be fine, but on either end, you're going to need help anyway.
Absolutely.
No matter what your lifestyle, no matter what your diet, whatever. As I speak here, I look like Jabba the Hutt right now. There you go. But still, you know, always...
I didn't know that. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I did lose weight. No, I think I mentioned that earlier. You know...
If you were Jabba the Hutt, I think there would be a bit more trouble getting all of us at this table.
Probably.
I think green's the only thing that's going.
But with regard to the hill... the hill is different for everybody, because people can... The peak is a bit...
I thought you meant Juan Hill at the Spanish American.
Some people stay upward a bit longer, some go downward quicker.
There was definitely some magic spots where he synced up either with his dad or with his son or with Hildegard. There was key moments where it was nice, you know.
It was perfect with Hildegard. She preferred 50-year-old men.
Yeah.
And how old was she again?
20-year-old person in a 50-year-old body.
Yeah.
Already. And another thing that really struck me was the way that it ended.
What did it strike you at? Bad doctor joke.
But I actually recorded the last line because it was very descriptive. And I quote, "Then it was all dark, and his white crib, and the dim faces that moved above him, and the warm, sweet aroma of the milk faded out altogether from his mind."
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
It was in the movie. Just his wife came back, and looked after him, and he died in her arms. But here it's much more... The scenery of death is just so not only descriptive, but it really gives you that insight of what it's like to be a baby. And in the same way, you could probably connect that to someone dying when they're older. Only the difference with that is I don't know if the scent would be that aroma of milk.
I don't think it's milk. It usually, honestly, and this is coming from... Now this is coming way out of left field. With some people, when they have NDE or near-death experience, if you cut this out, I don't care, that's fine, but still, they'll say they've come back and they've had the most beautiful food, the most beautiful colors, music, stuff like that. Now, like I said, first of all, the reason I'm bringing it up is because, it's... When I read that little last line, it's like, I'm saying to myself, I'm reading about a child dying, even though he aged backwards. So that doesn't sit well with me. This, even though it's the it's the 21st century. We put a man on the moon in 1969, but we can't figure out.
It's a what if situation.
I'm going way off right now, but still, But just reading those last few sentences really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, it does, because like you're going out in a full blaze of innocence.
Yeah.
It's kind of. It's not an easy thing to take in.
Yeah, and it was, when I lost my grandmother 2 years ago, it was so hard on me. I mean, I wasn't even eating cookies. I was eating brownies. And I'm not going to tell you what kind of brownies, but yeah.
And it's the same kind of, you're losing something, because whether you age normally or you age the way he does. Right. You're losing something that I think the only difference more so is when he was the older man at 70. It wasn't as if he was gaining something either.
They weren't pot brownies, I'll just flat out say.
Because he just seemed like that crotchety old man, and not,
when he was first born,
and not one with a memory loss. Yeah, when he was first born. Yes.
Yeah. And just for clarification, they were not pot brownies. They were just brownies that I made that came out like crap. And I couldn't stand it. So I just ate them anyway. And that's how I coped.
Alrighty.
Sorry I went way off left field, and you'll hate me now.
Anybody have any final thoughts?
Great read. It's a great read. It's a great...
Yeah,
10 out of 10.
Excellent story.
Yeah, more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
I agree.
And also, if you're familiar with the film, it's a completely different experience.
Absolutely, they really changed that.
Totally different game. It's basically the genesis of the idea, but it's two different stories.
Genesis means birth.
They wanted to beef up the film more, but at the same time, they altered a lot of things.
Yeah.
It would have been something if they had him born the same way that this old man was born, but they were really good with the makeup design.
Yeah,
I'll say that much. But if you are, and they wanted to make it so that it paralleled to today, and it ended with Hurricane Katrina because they were in a hospital in New Orleans.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I forgot about that tie-in. I thought that was kind of rotten that the daughter had to go through the diaries to find out that's her dad.
Ooh. If you're interested in checking out some more Fitzgerald, I have the short stories of F. Scott Fitzgerald, a new collection. It's edited and has a preface by Matthew J. Bruckley.
Bruckley?
Yep.
Not broccoli.
Or Brucoli.
Brucoli, yeah.
That may be a better way to say it. You have something there too, Andrew.
Yeah, it's just a condensed, it's a pen... I think this came out because of the film, because it had the inspiration. I think this was something that they were...
was that a library?
Yeah, it's from the library.
Okay. Okay.
So it's as opposed to the...
We support all book outlets
film,
here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the...
As I hold...
They have...
I read this 3 times through with no regrets. It was it's a great story.
They have small Penguin classics that...
I love...
Yeah, that's what I thought this was at first, but...
a lot of them, they're just
Scribner.
black and have, a lot of them are pitch black, and they have the title with the author's name and their shorter works. But alrighty then, be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.